Okay. All right. Madam Chair, I'm Miss Chair Miss Beatrice, can you do me a favor and just monitor the chat for me? I greatly appreciate that.
Hi. Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, hold on one second. Let me trying to just get this out of my way.
Denise, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear
So
me?
yeah, I'm trying to see where the chat is. I'm not on my computer. I'm doing it from my phone.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, yeah.
Is there
Oh.
anyone from your committee here?
Yes, Mr. Ivan is here.
Oh,
Um,
perfect. Hi, Ivan. Would you be able to cover that?
the
I'm also
chat.
I'm also on my phone, but I will do the best that I can.
Okay, all right. So between the two of you, I trust that
We got it. Yeah.
you'll be able to handle that for me. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Let me share my screen, and I do expect that more committee members, and I am expecting more constituents rather from the community to be here as well. I don't see Miss Roth. She's supposed to be presenting as well. Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me share the agenda. The agenda has been revised, so I will be sharing that on the screen. Give me one moment. Okay, hold on one second. I don't have it up correctly. Okay, hold on one second, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I have it correct now. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just review the agenda and then we'll jump right in. We will go over the norms. We will be talking about the revised mission statement. These will take all of 2 minutes. And then there is something that we have to vote on as a committee for the committee members, the PEP command for Van Cortlandt Park, and whether we want to craft our own letter or we're going to draft a letter of support in conjunction with Community Board 8. And then Dave Ramdeen he's not an official group at the RC track, but he does use the RC track, and he was going to give us an update about that and what's going on over there. And Stephanie Roth from the PS21 Renzi Playground. Then we have this point 6 on the agenda, which is revised, will be the Van Cortlandt Park pedestrian bridge alternative presentation. This was also presented to Community Board 8 in their Parks Committee meeting and will be addressed here as well. And then Matt Duron's replacement, who I'm not so sure. I haven't been in touch with that person. I don't know who they are exactly. So I was hoping that they would be in attendance as well. And then we have the Bronx River Flotilla event that is sponsored through the Bronx River Alliance. And then at that point, if there are any other questions, comments, or any other additions that would like to be put onto the agenda, that will take place at that point. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. The norms for the committee meetings, I like to always review this just so that we can all be on one accord. I try to make sure that there is equity of voice in our committee meetings so that everyone is heard and has the opportunity to speak. We all are very passionate about our community and we want the best for it, but so we need to be able to listen to each other and to have the opportunity to speak as well. So that is what we'll try to make sure that takes place. And currently, within taking in some of the suggestions that were made for the revised mission statement. The only thing that I didn't include was one of the suggestions about the history. That part of it, I didn't have a chance to sit with Ursula to kind of go over all of that, but this is how it stands as of right this minute. So I'll just read this to everyone. The Parks and Recreation Committee of Community Board 12 seeks to enhance, maintain, create parks and green spaces that benefit the emotional and mental well-being of all community members. We value the importance and seek to preserve these spaces within our borders as an essential part of the quality of life in our community. We partner with all advocacy and coalition groups who seek the necessary budget from our public officials to continue our mission. So that's how it stands now. If there are any additional comments that we can take into consideration at this point, please feel free to share. Any hands at this point? Does any, and Beatrice or Ivan, if you can help me out if there are any hands.
I think it sounds great.
Okay.
I was gonna say, absolutely, we need to add the history because there is
Right. That's the
a
only
big
thing.
historical component, and
Right.
I think advocacy groups or groups that share our vision.
Okay. Advocacy. What did you say? Advocacy.
That part where we talked about the advocacy,
Yes. Uh-huh.
where
So you wanted to
instead
say
of
advocacy groups that share our vision?
that share our vision, right?
Okay.
Or
Hold on. Right now, I'm going to just do it on the spot.
share our
That share our vision.
yeah.
Okay. This way I won't forget to do it. What else? Anything else from anyone else? As I'm sharing my screen, it's a little bit difficult for me to see the hands.
There are no hands right now, Denise.
Okay, perfect. All right. And like I said, hopefully I will get an opportunity to speak to Ms. Green, and she will be able to assist me with that in terms of getting more of the historical details embedded into the mission statement. But this is the way it stands right now. Okay. All right. Hearing none, we will move on. This does require the next item up, the PEP command for Van Cortlandt Park, does require, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen 1 second because I need to see how many committee members are here. All right, we have Mr. Ivan, we have Ms. Bromfield. Good evening, Ms. Bromfield. And then Ms. Beatrice. So I'm only missing Theodore James and Lucille Martin. And so I believe we do have the necessary the word just escapes me at the moment. Quorum, there you go. The next necessary quorum to be able to take a vote on this matter. So the Parks Chair for Community Board 8 has drafted a letter to the New York City Parks Department and requesting that a PEP command be put in place permanently at Van Cortlandt Park. And in the letter, they requested this because that would give the officers a base to respond quickly to anything that happens within Van Cortlandt Park. And they were requesting that we either craft our own letter in support of them or a letter of support of their letter. So I just want to open that up to all the committee members and to the community to get your feedback on what you think Community Board 12 should do. Should we draft our own letter or should we just give a letter of support for their letter? That's the question. Anyone?
I think we could combine, right? Because it's, definitely we want to collaborate.
Right.
So combining is fine.
So just drafting a letter of support for their letter.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Anyone else have an opinion about that? Ms. Bromfield, do you have an opinion about that?
My only thought is that, which I'm not sure, is it necessary? I mean, what community board does that Van Cortlandt Park? What part of it are they discussing? By Broadway or by Kim?
No, the request is to have the PEP command, which is like the people who police the Van Cortlandt Park, the parks, the PEP officers. So those officers hold on one second. This is Mike Ortiz calling, and I know he's supposed to present. Hold on 1 minute, please.
Ms. Broomfield, but it's a form of security policing of the park, a command center.
Okay, so so our letter of support for their letter that they're writing, not our own individual letter. That's what we're discussing, right?
So, Ms. Brumfield, and for everyone else,
Yes, I'm so sorry. That's what we're discussing. Yes, I'm sorry. It seems like some of the other constituents had the wrong link, so I'm trying to just send them the right link. So just bear with me. You can continue to discuss. I'll be right back.
no worries, Ms. Bond. So I just wanted to clarify. So, Ms. Bromfield and others that are listening, we do have CB12 does have a part of Van Cortlandt Park. So Van Cortlandt Park is is in our, how do you say, is within our community board, a piece of it. So this letter that we're sending obviously would be to, to
advocate for that.
yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Beatrice.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm in agreement with that.
And so her question was, should we craft our own letter or a letter of support to that one?
I think we could just go with a letter of support for that letter that they're with their request, because it would still be within part of that we're advocating for the same thing.
Right, it's part of our district. So as soon as Ms. Bond comes back, just let her know that, what your thoughts are as a committee member.
I think she heard me.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Miss Beatrice, I'm going to ask your assistance. So, because somehow on my phone here, I'm looking for the link to send. I need to send it to Mike Ortiz, and then he would put it in the chat, because I don't know what meeting.
I'm gonna forward it to you right now. I'm gonna email it to you.
Oh, okay, thank you, because I'm looking, and for whatever reason, of course, when you're looking for something, you never can find it. All right. So yes, I did hear what everyone had to say, and so I think what we'll have to get is now a motion that so that we can present this to the full board, that we are so we would like to draft a letter of support with supporting rather Community Board 8 in their decision to request this PEP command for Van Cortlandt Park. Okay, so can I have a motion from one of the committee members, please?
So I make a motion. This is Michelle.
Okay. So you
Second.
just have to kind of state the whole thing. I make a motion that we send a letter of support for. Ms. Bromfield?
I'm muted. Okay. So I make a motion that we do draft up a letter of support support again of community boards requests for the PEP station, whatever it's called.
PEP command for Van Cortlandt Park. Okay.
Park.
Okay. Can I have a second? Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. So that motion has been moved and seconded. So we will pass that information on to the community board, the general meeting community board, and we will let them know that the Parks Committee is in support. Do you know where they, hold on 1 second. I think there's a question in the chat. Okay. Side note, do we know where they intend to place the PEP command checkpoint in Van Cortlandt Park? I think, and this is from Javed. Am I saying your name right, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Javid, I don't think that we have gotten that far to exactly where the placement is. It's just to get the placement of one so far. And as we go along, I think we will hear more information about the placement of it.
That sounds good. Because Van Cortlandt is pretty large, so I was wondering
Yes.
if they're putting one. I guess this might be a starting point of trying to maybe build more, maybe. But it sounds good. Thank you.
Right, because and I understand it absolutely the way the park is laid out. It could be on the east side, the west side. There's so many parts to it, and it's just laid out in various areas. So maybe what we could bring up as a next point, once we do hopefully get it in place, is that we could have them um have it so that it's not stationed. Maybe they can move from one area to another. Maybe that would be a solution because of the layout of Van Cortlandt Park. I'm so
Right,
sorry.
right. I mean, as a guest, if I could offer a minor recommendation, perhaps in the letter that is drafted in support of that
Uh-huh.
other letter, on maybe a slight nudge or reference as to how a checkpoint at a particular site could also be beneficial in the future. Just a slight nudge, just so they could maybe be aware of Community Board 12.
Right. I think that I do appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Javits, but at this point, I think what the letter from Community Board 8 states is just about having the PEP command in place. So our letter of support, I think, just needs to address that at the moment. And as they move along further in the process, then I think we can make for more suggestions, if that's okay. Does
Well,
that
of course,
work?
of course. Yes, it sounds good.
Okay, great. All right. Hold on one second. I'm trying to get the
Did you
other
get the
people.
email, Denise?
Yeah, yes. Hold on
Okay,
one
great.
second. I'm trying to forward that now to Mike Ortiz. Hold on 1 minute. And I do apologize. Sorry about this.
No
But these
worries. Things happen.
things happen, exactly. All right. Let me just check now. I think that he should. Okay. All right. So, all right. So I think we have that point. I think we're good with point number 3. Let me switch back to the agenda. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if Mr. Ramdeen, Dave Ramdeen, is on. He might be with that group that's trying to get in, so I'm not so sure. And maybe Stephanie Roth is with that group as well. And I know Mike is part of that. Let me see if so those points, I'm going to skip those points for right now, just because I know there are other people trying to sign in. There were, I guess, some confusion about the link. So let me just see if anyone is Matt Duron is here. Not Matt, but his replacement. Hold on 1 second. Let me stop sharing. All right. The person that is scheduled to now be in place for Matt Duron, are you signed in? Because I don't know who that person is, so I'm not familiar. I'm not sure if they're signed in. Mm, all right, we will. Okay, I see Kim is here. Hi, Kim.
Denise,
Hi. All right. How many people were you? One of the people who had the wrong link?
no,
Oh, okay. So then I'm not sure. I'm still waiting for a few of those people to sign in. All right, we'll move on through the agenda and then hopefully they will get on shortly. I did want to I don't see um the Bronx River Alliance represented here, but they are having, and I think I can also share the flyer with you. But on May 6th, 3 weeks from now, they are having their Bronx River flotilla event, and it always, hold on one second, this is Mike Ortiz again. Okay, he hasn't received it yet. Hold 1 second, please. So sorry. Beatrice, do you have, oh wait, how should I do this? Give me 1 minute, please.
Denise, would you like to text me his email and I'll send it?
Thank you. All right, I sent it to you. Thank you, Ms. Dickerson. Because I did send it to him, but I don't know what happened.
No problem.
All right. All right, moving on. So that the link to the flyer I will put in the chat. So give me 1 second and I'll pull that up, and this way everyone will have the opportunity to, it's a great event. I went to it last year. Not sure if I'll be able to attend this year, but a great event for the young people in our community to be out actually on the river. So really, really cool. Hold on 1 minute. Let me just pull that up.
Denise, can I help you with anything?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I'm just trying to pull up the link for the, hold on 1 minute. Okay, Mike is still trying to get on apparently. Hold on.
Sent it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dickerson. He just received it. All right, hold on, and I just want to share my screen one more time. Yes. All right, lots of moving parts this evening, but it's all good. Okay, yes, so this is can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Bronx River Alliance, their flyer for the event that takes place on Bronx River, and it's on May 6th. So you can feel free to join them. It's a wonderful event, lots of fun. You could form a team if you would like, even to go down. They provide you with the paddles, the canoes, the flotillas, or whatever it's called. I'm not so well versed on that, but it's a lot of fun, and just it's great to see especially for me, to see the children involved in the event. So I will put this link in the chat so that you can have a copy of the flyer. Give me 1 moment. Mike Ortiz on yet? No Mike Ortiz. Okay. We'll keep pressing forward. Hold on, let me get this link in the chat for everyone. And there we go. All right, so that's in the chat for everyone. Okay. There we go. All right. And so that takes up point 8. And we are going to go back now to, I'm still waiting for Mike Ortiz to be on. Okay, no Mike Ortiz. Does anyone have any other comments or questions they have that they wanted to bring up about anything while we wait for Mike Ortiz to get on?
Hi, this is Judy Hudson from the East 222nd Street Block Association.
Yes, Judith.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I wanted to bring up about Shoelace Park, the entrance
Mhm.
on East 222nd Street in the Bronx.
Okay.
There's an entrance there, and there's been a problem for a couple of years. At the bottom of the steps, they have not completed. Oh, it looks to me they did not complete the planning of how that entrance should be. There is a path there on each side where it's just dirt. It's just dirt, and the trucks, the parks department trucks and the garbage trucks they just go through it, and you see the big tire marks. Then when it's raining, it's flooded. You know, you got puddles in there. And I spoke about it. I brought it up, you know, when the park was first finished, and said, well, they should do something. So then the Parks Department, they had just put like mulch, I think, or some kind of straw there. But of course that just dissipated. And it's a mound of mud there all the time. And they need to either plant something or put grass. And today I noticed that the garbage truck just goes right over this muddy path. So either they need to put cement there and then plants near there if they want the garbage truck to go through there, because they have two like boulders in there so that the truck can't go completely on on the tarred path, the cement path where the bikes are, to get through to the other part of the park, because they have like two boulders there. So they go over this muddy path, and it looks horrible. It's when you come down the steps, you just see two sets of muddy paths next to you.
Just a quick question on that. Wasn't that part of the capital project when they first finished it, that was supposed to be completed? No?
Exactly. And they
Oh,
did
okay.
not complete
Maybe.
it correctly.
Okay, I see Mike Ortiz is on. Maybe he can answer that question for you, Ms. Hudson.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Ortiz?
Hi, how are you? Thank you
Sorry
very
for the
much
delay.
for,
Sorry for all the confusion. But
thank you very much.
did,
Ms. Hudson, I'm sorry, where particularly are you referring to? Which path was that in Shoelace?
On the East 222nd Street entrance at the bottom of the steps, they never
Yeah,
completed that area over there.
no, they did. What's going on is that just the amount of it's an erosion problem that's going on. You're talking about right by the plaza where it's like all the nice, beautiful blue colors, right?
Right. Well,
Yeah,
right before the plaza. As soon as you come down the steps, you can either
yeah.
turn one way to the plaza or go up the hill. And there's just big mound of mud there, right there, and also across from there.
Yeah, so that's actually, unfortunately, that's an erosion problem, and also, as you mentioned, a lot of the bicycles and unfortunately the motorized vehicles, including probably our very own parks vehicles, there's a bollard right in the middle of the path, so they couldn't go there, so they ended up driving right like on that slope, which didn't help. So a lot of that washed off. I know that Matt Doran was working on the solution to this, but it was reconstructed as part of the project. It's just that it didn't, it's some things are great in design, but when you think about it afterwards, it just, it didn't allow for the access of vehicles, and then the erosion wasn't controlled enough. So, it's like all of that soil just kept washing off into the path. But I think Matt was looking for a solution um, to that. I know that one of the thoughts was removing the bollard to allow like easier access, because it's not just the vehicles, it's also, people walking, and they kind of take like a direct beeline directly through there to the path rather than take the asphalt. They actually just will walk along that slope as well, which doesn't help the erosion that's going on. But I can follow up with Matt and I'll tell him to work with Felix if he did have a solution that he never put in place there. So I can follow up there for you.
And
Thank
then
you.
one quick, sorry, Miss Hudson. And then one other quick note on that, Mike, is there wouldn't be any additional funding needed for that because that was already something that was supposed to be built into the initial capital project, right? So we wouldn't have to worry about funding to correct the problem, correct?
I think he was looking for an internal solution to it. The slope itself wasn't completed as part of this project. It was just the pavement. So technically, I guess if capital funding would be needed for like the pavement, we've had projects like this in the past. Ideally, we'd prefer to not have like retaining walls or hard barriers because it's just it's unattractive, really. But maybe a regrading can use a capital project. But I would say let's see what we can do in house first before
Okay.
we go around, asking for funding for this.
All right. And I see Mr. Ivan has his hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Boris.
My observation, it was never touched, and that's what was so unfortunate.
That's
The
correct.
pavement was definitely reconstructed, and the entire plaza was created. So the entire path was reconstructed.
But that area, excuse me, that area, like he said, was never touched. I saw when that path was done, and it's not people walking on there because the mud is so high. No one walks over there because it's now a very, it's like a little mound of mud. So you can see big tire trucks, which is from the Parks Department vehicles, which they need to go through there because of the two boulders there. And not even just there, there's another side also. On the other side by the river is also. So as soon as you come down there, you see nothing but mud. And now that mud has actually gone, it's now eroding onto the path, which is paved. So people now have to walk partially in mud. And it's over 2 years. I mean, I talked about this before. Like I said, before they just put some mulch or something and that just eroded. They never, when they finished that park, they never completed that part. It was never done.
Sorry,
So
Ms. Hudson,
maybe,
I have a quick question. Are you saying that the path was never reconstructed?
No, I'm not saying the path was reconstructed, but if you notice with the path, in the path, they made like triangles inside the different triangles. They completed it with grass. They made like a border for those triangles, so it kept everything in. That area was never done. There was no triangle around there. There was no grass placed there. From the time they completed the park, that area was never touched.
You're talking about the
Mike,
grass area.
Mr. Boris, can you do me a favor? Can you go on the Google map and pull that up so we can see clearly what it looks like maybe?
Yeah, I just want to be 100% sure of what it is that you guys are talking about. And I'll double check this with Felix, the park manager, and with Matt, who was the previous park manager here. But
I have pictures if you want me to share. I don't know if I'm able to share it.
Yes, please do share because I feel like we need to have a little bit of
Okay,
clarity
I have
on
a picture.
exactly
Hold on.
this
Let me
spot.
see if I can
Please.
share it.
Thank you.
Ms. Hudson is doing that. I just want to concur. What I think it was, for lack of better terms, it was like the ground zero where the construction was taking place. And as they finished the construction, just was never, it was never cleaned up. It was never completed. So I concur with Ms. Hudson.
Right. So it was just never revisited. So
Yeah,
maybe
I'm
that
gonna
was
take a look because I've inspected that site multiple times for the construction. Not to ever defend a contractor, but it was a pretty reliable and responsible contractor that was on this job who wanted to make sure they had a good job, and I inspected this numerous times. Some of the items I know that, sometimes when we try to plan something, and sometimes it fails, and we'll try to replant it, and if it fails again, so we just kind of like let nature do its thing. If like, cause I mean, how much can we ask someone to replant something? So maybe that's what happened here, but I don't recall correctly. I can look at my notes from
right.
those inspections, but I don't foresee us allowing a contractor to walk away and I truly don't remember,
Okay.
this being an issue. I do know that we have some serious erosion coming from that, that slope that is covering the path and everything, though. That I know that for sure. That was always an issue.
Right. All right. So, Ms. Hudson, if you have the photos, if you could share those,
I
then
don't
maybe that
know.
would help to
I
clarify.
don't think the system is letting me share it. I don't know how to share it.
Are you on a laptop? Are you on a laptop or are you on your cell phone? Ms.
I'm
Hudson?
on the laptop.
I think
Okay.
the host has to give her privilege, right, to share the screen.
Oh,
Ms.
okay. Well,
Hudson, you can also feel free to send them over to my email, and I could take a look tomorrow with Felix and Matt and look through my old notes, and I'll follow up and respond. I can report back to you, the
all right.
finding, including the
That
conversation.
would be fine too. But since everyone's here, I wanted them just to see it. But if you look at the bottom of your screen, it doesn't say share.
Yeah, it
There's
says
no.
share, but when I
Yeah.
hit
Okay.
share, it says grant access and system preferences, and I open system preferences, and then I don't see, there's no photos. Do you see photos? Oh, I got to hit there. Okay.
Because the access part I think is on your end because I don't see anything where I have to grant you access.
See, it says I'll have to leave to come back. It says
Oh.
quit and reopen, so I can't do that.
Oh, maybe in order to share it, that's what you would have to do.
Right.
It's your choice. If you would like to just send it to Mr. Ortiz, that's fine. Or if you want to go out and come back in, that's fine too.
I mean,
Tell
I
me
could
what you would like to
go
do.
out because I would like everyone to really see this because this has been like this from the beginning. I mean, from the time
Okay.
they finished it, it was like this.
No, I understand. So if you would like to go out and come back in,
Okay, so I'll quit and reopen then.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me, Denise is Clinton.
yes,
Or she can
yes.
send it to you maybe.
Can you email it to me?
Sure.
Okay, so email it then.
What is your email?
Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Oh, if I could get the chat open. Okay.
I mean, whichever one is easier. I'm just saying.
Hold on 1 second. Let me I'll put that in the chat for her. Okay, can you see that, Miss Hudson? In the chat? My email address?
Yes, I do see it. I'm
Okay.
going to email it to you.
Okay, sounds good. All right. While you are doing that, and I do apologize that we're a little off the agenda, but we are going to go. Let's see. We'll go back to point number 4. Dave Ramdeen, are you here to talk about the RC track? Are you available? Are you here? Anyone here to talk about the RC track? No. Okay. Mr. Ramdeen was supposed to be here. All right. Stephanie Roth? No, Stephanie Roth. All right. So, with that being said, we will come back to the photos of Ms. Hudson, but just to keep things moving along, Mr. Ortiz, if you could go ahead and if you could present. Oh, Mr. Boris, yes?
I just want to put on record as far as the RC track.
Yes.
As many as many of you know, the RC track, I've advocated for it since my beginning of my tenure as chair, when I was chair. I really wanted to see it flourish and come to fruition, and it never did. And it caused a lot of rifts, unfortunately, because of inconsistency with this coalition of the RC of this committee, this RC committee. So I just want to put it on record that once again they're not consistent.
Right. No, the committee, the group, Mr. Boris, that was initially that the coalition that presented itself, they are no longer in existence. They have really nothing to do with the RC park. A few of their members might still use the track, but they are, as a group, they are not responsible. But the gentleman, his name is Dave Ramdeen, and he did speak to me, and he said that along with him and a few other community members, that they are utilizing the RC track. And I just wanted him to come and speak to that this evening, but I guess he wasn't able to make it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, no problem. All right.
Ms.
All right,
Bond, if
let-
you want us to move ahead with the presentation, we
Yes,
can do that as
please.
well.
Yes, please.
Hi.
Please do
So
that.
I'm actually going to turn it over to Matt Donovan and Annie Weinmeyer from our Natural Resources Group, who have come up with, when we presented to Community Board 12 last month, there were a lot of good questions and points that were brought up. And in order to address some of those, we went back and we did some homework. Thanks to Annie and Matt, they really went out there. They started working right away. They started looking at distances, and they really heard what everybody was trying to say, that once they cross over to the west side of the park, that people really want to go directly south, as opposed to just connecting to the John Muir Trail. So they came up with a couple of plans, just describing that, and also looking at the connections along from Norwood, which this proposed bridge in the past was also supposed to help address that severed connection as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Andy and Matt to take over this presentation.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. This is Matt Donham, and I am the Director of Ecological Design. I'm a landscape architect at Parks, and joined by Annie Weinmeyer, another landscape architect. And we have a presentation. Annie, I'm going to ask you to share presentation. And so some of you have seen this. It's a sort of continuation and refinement to the presentation we shared with this group a month ago.
Okay. With
the addition of some maps where we're really trying to understand how people move from east to west, from the east side of the park to the west and back, and then look at how the proposed bridge and the alternatives that we're considering and presenting to you, how they impact those distances. And we just want to make sure we have this right, because we heard some things suggesting that maybe we weren't quite getting it. And so we'll run through the presentation and then look at the maps, and then like to hear anything people want to share, but in particular would like to hear if we're missing something with the maps and our understanding.
Okay, we'll definitely do that at the end of your presentation. And there's also a need for the community and all the constituents involved to do a walkthrough, and we'll talk about that afterwards as well.
Yes, agreed.
Okay.
Is the screen sharing?
It is. Yeah, it's sort of not full screen though.
Okay. How about now?
Still seeing the slide deck on the left, but better. If you go to, yeah, that's better. Okay.
Okay.
So to review, this is the proposed pedestrian bridge as rendered in November 2019, crossing the Major Deegan, connecting the Allen Chandler Recreation Area with the Croton Woods to the west. Next slide. And here is that same proposed bridge in plan view, where with an analysis of the impact on the grading of the ground and the trees through the forest that would need to be removed as part of aligning the bridge. And also shown are some underground pieces of infrastructure which caused the bridge to be positioned where it is. So it was a really delicate balancing act between things underground that couldn't have bridge footings intersecting with them, and then the trees. And there are a lot of work from the Parks' consultant to try to minimize the impact on trees, but nonetheless, it represents a pretty significant impact on the forest canopy on both sides of the Major Deegan. And that was something that the agency has been unhappy with, but sort of trying to minimize as much as possible, but unable to sort of make that impact entirely go away. Next slide. And then last time we met with you, we shared a potential alternative which makes use of the Jerome Avenue existing bridge, pedestrian and vehicular bridge, and then makes an at-grade connection headed north into Croton Woods. And one of the things we heard loud and clear is that people need to go south, and that the pedestrian bridge was envisioned as making a more direct connection to the south. And so we started looking at alternatives. And on the next slide, oh, sorry, skipping over this. This is kind of the conditions on the Jerome Avenue Bridge. Many of you are probably familiar with this and perhaps frustrated with the condition of this intersection, the sense of safety when crossing. But one of the things we noticed is as if we can address the safety of the intersection as we move from the intersection up towards the overpass, there's quite a lot of parkland that's currently just kind of mown and weedy, and has potential to be improved and try to draw the experience of the park across the Major Deegan. And then when you get to the other side, you kind of immediately dive back into the woods. And so one of the things that felt like a positive here is the idea that we could bring a kind of park-like experience for visitors and users, as close as possible across the Major Deegan. So next slide. Here's a view of what that might look like. The existing conditions in the top left, and then a rendered view, the larger image on the right, how densely planting could really improve the experience in this location. Next slide. So here, after presenting and discussing the map on the left, which was really oriented towards the north, after hearing that people want more direct connection to the south, that's a priority, we explored in the middle image a kind of switchback through the woods to start heading back south. To explain this a bit, there's a pretty steep slope through this area. And so the switchback would allow us to kind of cut across the slope and provide a gentle sloping path rather than a steeply sloping path like the one that exists in that area today. And then in the map on the right, we're looking at, in the location of there's an existing set of stairs when you come over the Jerome Avenue Bridge today that drops down just as you come over the bridge, drops down into the woods. And we are looking at what it would mean to replace that with a gently ramping, elevated ramping walkway from the bridge down into the woods and meeting up near the location where the ped bridge would have landed. So a lot of maps there, but we can answer questions if they, if they come up looking at these. But let's keep looking now at more maps and talk about travel distances as we understand them. So I'm going to hand off to Annie, who's done this analysis, and she will walk through what we're looking at here.
Great. Hi, everybody. So on this slide and the next slide, we have sets of maps showing on this page distances and example paths from Woodlawn Heights to the parade ground, just to choose a destination on the west side of the park that's kind of centrally located. We realized that there are many, many different routes to come in to the park from Woodlawn Heights, and people will be taking different routes, but we wanted first to take a look at how long it would be to go over the proposed pedestrian bridge route, and that's what's shown in red. So that going from, just an example, I know a lot of people might not be walking down that particular street, but for consistency's sake, we just chose one location. So following the red route, going from the southeast corner of Woodlawn Heights across the proposed pedestrian bridge and over to the west side, it would be about 2 miles, which would be about 45, 50 minutes. If we did the enhanced accessible trail route, which is shown in black, that's about 1.9 miles, pretty much the same distance. And if we were to upgrade the stairs at the north end of the Jerome Avenue Bridge into also an accessible route, but a little more direct, going south or going north, it comes in about the same at 1.8 miles. So this was instructive for us to realize that the ped bridge wasn't going to get you there necessarily any faster from this corner of the park. And then if we have started also looking at, we heard feedback at the last meeting that people don't necessarily enter Van Cortlandt Park from this point, that maybe people from Woodlawn Heights enter further up. They come along the John Muir Trail and then go under that tunnel, which we agree could also receive some improvements. So the John Muir Trail crossing the highway there and then heading west from that direction. But we didn't really see how that trail would, how the bridge would help get you over to the west side any faster from there. But we'd really like to hear what you all have to say about that and what routes you currently take, what routes you were planning to take with the new pedestrian bridge, and how those would get you over to the west side currently or ideally. So in the next slide, we looked at routes from Norwood, because we realized that we definitely hear you all in the fact that the east side has fewer amenities, and that people from the east side of the park are often trying to go to the west side of the park to go to those amenities. So in a similar analysis, we looked at entering from the southeast corner of the park from the Norwood neighborhood. So along the red route is the pedestrian bridge going up across and then over. That brings you in about 2.8 miles, which walking would be about 1 hour and 10 minutes. And then the green and the black are about the same distance. So the black is, again, making an existing trails, at-grade trails, into accessible paths. That particular route came in at 2.7 miles. If we were to upgrade the stairs into an elevated ramp, shown in green, that comes in at 2.6 miles. For each of these, from that area, you can go north, you can go south, they're about the same. And then we noticed also that from Norwood, if you wanted to get over to the parade grounds, for example, faster, going partially along the street, shown in purple there, actually gets you there a lot faster at 1.6 miles, which is about 40 minutes. So we totally realize there are many different ways to walk in the park, but we hope that this would spark some conversations and help us to understand, the ways that you all use the park and want to use the park. Let's see. On this next slide, oh yes, in doing these analyses, we realized that wherever people are entering the park, they're going to have to cross some of these major intersections, two of which are shown on this slide, and both of which we think could really, really benefit from traffic calming, traffic improvements, for the sake of safety and security and comfort and pleasantness of experience for the pedestrians who are having to enter into the park through these points. And then once people are in the parks trying to get over to the various park amenities, the bridges and tunnels within the park also are in need or could really use some upgrades and to make them more pedestrian friendly and pleasant, and a more park-like experience. So we think that in addition, upgrades to all to many of these existing infrastructures could really be useful. And then I'll just leave you with this rendering, which is showing a location of, improvements to trails, making them more accessible. In this instance, this is bridging over a sort of a gully, showing that we wouldn't have to necessarily remove a lot of trees or be hugely detrimentally impactful to the forest with some of these at grade or slightly raised solutions. And we can open up the discussion now. Shall I stop sharing my screen? Let's see.
I think some people might want to refer back to what you have shown. So I think continue to share for the moment.
I'll
And
keep it up like this so we can see this, so I can move it, navigate with the sidebar on the side.
Excuse me. Yes, I think that would be a good idea. So I'm just asking if we can just speak one at a time. I know that Kim, you had some concerns that you might have voiced at the Community Board 8 meeting that maybe you would want to share with us here at Community Board 12. Kim, are you there?
Hi. Just gathering my thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, this expands the conversation a little bit farther than the Community Board 8 discussion, where we did not see the path into Norwood, and I think that is definitely an important part of the conversation. Just discussing all of the different routes and making sure that equity for all is addressed is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the issues, well, a few issues with the bridge itself that I'm maybe wanting to get some answers about are the design of it itself. And I recognize that many of you are coming into this very late in the game. This project has been going on for a very long time. And one of my big concerns is that at this stage in the game, it feels like the objective is a little, I don't want to say lost, but it's unclear on Park's end. And I don't mean to sound critical, because I do want to work as a team, but it does feel like the objective is unclear, where the original objective was really to find an equitable solution, and it seems to me that you're working without a compass, and you're relying on so much community feedback to get clarity. So, to go back to some of my questions about the bridge itself, I've been having many conversations with community members and elected officials, and I've been in the weeds on this for a long time and still feel like I'm learning more. But something that was brought to my attention recently that I was unaware of is that the design of the bridge as it currently stands is to allow for Park's vehicles to cross the bridge. And that is one of the reasons why the current design is so bending and so sprawling. And also one of the reasons to me that it seems like it would take a longer time to cross. So, and also the location moved. It's not the original location. So I wonder if we're at an inflection point where we have an opportunity to take a wider lens, where we have that infrastructure plan grant that we have an opportunity to maybe apply for, where it also allows for design funds, and maybe just look at it from a wider perspective. And like you said a few weeks ago during the CB8 meeting, Matt, we were talking about thinking big, and you said, I don't really like this project. I don't totally disagree with you. Maybe we, need to think bigger, do a site visit, think about it from every possible perspective. Are we doing everything we can to meet all of the community's needs? Mike, I know you've got your hand up, so I don't see why a pedestrian bridge needs to have vehicles crossing it, is one of my big concerns. It just doesn't make sense to me. Right. That seems over-designed. Go ahead.
Yes. So Kim, you brought up like so many different points. You brought up like 6 different questions. I know. So there's a lot to chew on there. So I think that in fairness to our presenters, if we could maybe dissect that a little, if we could just move back to, I know some of this that you said was new to you. And I think you had a comment on that portion of it. And then the point you bring up about the vehicles on the pedestrian bridge, that is a new piece of information also to me. A pedestrian bridge is just that. It's not meant for vehicles. So that I agree in that statement. So there's a lot to chew on there. And then also I think a big part of what needs to be done by all constituents is that we do need to have this common meeting and come to the area and really be able to kind of take that walk and walk the area kind of to get a good sense of all of these things. It was one of the things that we had recommended out of the Community Board 12 meeting, and I'm not sure how far along we are with trying to make those plans to have that come to fruition. So lots to discuss. I don't know for presenters where you want to, which question you want to deal with first.
Thank you. That was a lot. I'm always
Yeah.
love working with you on this. I can. I'm going to start off a little abroad here, and if I am missing anything, please just jump in at any point. So the bridge is something that the community had been advocating for a very, very long time. DEP had a study done. I think it was published in the early 2000s or circa 2008, I want to say, where they, in the study, it did say, we think this is the right location for the bridge, and it is south of where the proposed bridge was. So, when the funding was allocated in 2015, GDC, who was the agency performing this work on behalf of Parks and DEP, started looking into this further, and then it was determined that the location proposed in the study from 2008 was not appropriate because there was sensitive infrastructure underneath, sensitive DEP infrastructure that required a certain setback. Like it has to be 100 feet from all of their infrastructure, which led us to the location that's where the current proposed bridge was. So that right there isn't an ideal placement because the Jerome Avenue 233rd connection is a 5-minute walk up, right? So it's not ideal. That it wasn't ideal, the movement in the first place. The second thing is that the bridge is a pedestrian bridge. It was built for small vehicle access, but that small vehicle access is actually for maintenance. It wouldn't be that much cheaper, or it's like a standard across my understanding. I could be very wrong, but this bridge has to be built to withstand for a long time. So I think whether it was, if no vehicles, not even small utility carts were allowed, I don't think it would change anything. It still has to meet a certain requirement for distance, for width. So I still think it would be the same because a small vehicle is not that much heavier than 2 or 3 people walking side by side on the bridge. What really adds to the cost of this bridge, of the originally proposed bridge, is that it has to clear a certain height distance by federal highway standards. I believe it's like 17.5 or 18 feet. So, unfortunately, that's going to require a lot of ramping to get it to that height. So, it requires a lot of ramping on the east side, on the Woodlawn and Norwood side by Chandler, just to get it to the height to be able to go over the highway at the right height. And then on the other side, on the west side of the park, the grade is significantly lower, so it's going to require a lot of ramps going down on that side, so even more than on the east side of the park. So that really is what drives a lot of the cost of it. And then you're working on a highway, which also brings up the cost. I-87 is a very, very busy thoroughfare for vehicles and stuff like that. So that's all driving up the costs.
Mike, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
There's been a request that if we could zoom in on the slide deck on the map, and I think it was not this page, but the page prior to this that was being displayed. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mike.
Oh,
Amy, I trust you know where you're going.
is this the page?
One more slide, I believe.
Got it.
Yes, I believe it's this one, correct?
Yes, can you zoom it to 100 so we can see that layout?
Yes,
The new ideas that were
Sure.
incorporated. Thank you.
yes. Okay, go, continue, Mike. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So we're coming back, and yes, we are getting, we want community buy-in because ultimately that's the bridge is this proposal is for the community. But what we did see is that, this bridge, the proposed bridge was only a 5-minute walk from an existing connection that's in very, very bad shape. That it really doesn't address a lot of the needs of the folks in Norwood, and it wasn't ideal. Once we started taking a better look at it, and then thankfully at the previous community board 12 meeting, we had a lot of input from everyone, and a lot of members said, hey, give us the distances of how much time this will add, or how much time, how much less time, and we did that. And that we, our original proposal was for the bridge, for once you cross over that bridge, to go up and meet the John Muir Trail, at a more level area. So then, the trail will then turn back down, which, after hearing what everybody said, made no sense. And, because it does make a lot of sense, but it wasn't what you guys wanted. So, thankfully, Adam and you went back, and they said, we're going to have to convert these stairs into a ramp of some sort. It reduces the time, and that's what people want. People don't want to go all the way up to go down. You said this yourself. So, this is why we want this community buy-in. And, I believe it was the community board 8 meeting, or this infiltration monitor committee meeting. Someone also said, there's a lot of underpasses in the park, in other areas that are not, as nice of an experience to walk through. So we're also looking at those throughout the park in order to make, the experience better for everyone that's trying to get from Norwood and Woodlawn over to the west side, and vice versa, because the folks on the west side also want to come over to the amenities on the east side as well. Did I miss anything? I'm so sorry.
Okay, Kim, did you get most of your questions answered by Mr. Ortiz, or?
Thanks, Mike.
I think one thing, just to jump in, Mike, I know we've been talking internally about trying to get this meeting set up, this site visit together. So we're definitely making progress on that. I don't know if we're ready to put out dates or anything, but we heard that and totally agree. This is so hard to understand from maps, and I think it'll help us all to be on the ground together.
Right, to get a real sense of it, to get a real feel for it. So
yeah.
We are already in April, so just to have a sense of where you think you might be, hopefully by May.
Yeah, I hope we can arrange something in May, hopefully soon.
Yeah, the weather is more likely to be a little bit better than. I see our chair has her hand raised. Give me 1 second, Beatrice, I'm coming to you. So yes, we would like to see it sooner rather than later, because this is something that we want to make sure gets off the ground and has some sort of resolution before the end of the community board year in June, when so we would like to really definitely make sure that takes place.
Ms. Bond, if I can just jump in, I know you're trying to get over to your chairperson, but
yeah, go ahead.
Tonight we'll also be presenting this to Community Board 7. When it comes to the Portland Park, we've always gone to all 3 community boards unless a project is specific to one side of the board. But since this is one that is going to affect all boards, we've gone to Community Board 12, then to Community Board 8, and tomorrow we will be going to Community Board 7, and we will also be extending the invitation for the walkthrough to Community Board 7 as well.
Okay, all right. Chair?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for the new information that you've presented today. Can you make that happen? And it's beautiful that you're meeting with them tomorrow. I mean, ideally, because we are about to wrap up the year, if we can make this happen before our committee meetings the next month coming up, I think that would be ideal so that we can start having that conversation. And so I really would like to push for this to be done before our next committee meetings. By tomorrow, you would have met with both the 3 boards. Could you make that happen?
Yeah, we're definitely going to try. As you can imagine, it's a lot of coordination between 3 boards, the Parks Department, and all the elected officials that want to attend as well. But we're definitely going to try.
Right. And then if I can also make another suggestion that if there needs to be like a joint meeting with Community Board 7, 8, and 12 for all of their parks committees to maybe to, have a joint meeting to collaborate to, push that forward, that's something that we could think of doing. And we would definitely, from the Community Board 12, our perspective, we would definitely put it on our calendar to push it forward. So it's just the
So we would
coordination.
have to present this 3 more times? What? That would be fantastic.
No. That's the exact opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying if there could be a meeting where all of the parks committee meet in one meeting.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Because now we have to present it 3 different times. So
No, not about the presentation. It's about the walkthrough. So that like when you have a date.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's what I mean when I mean the coordination. Because we would only want to do it once as well.
Exactly. So then you would have one meeting for 7, 8, and 12, and then we could all just be here the same thing, agree on a date, and make it happen. And then the other thing that I was even thinking is that if, like, for some reason someone wasn't able to make it, maybe that something like that could be videotaped, and then everyone could get to see on the ground what that looks like. So just a thought.
I mean, if you guys want to do like a 3-board parks committee meeting at the same time too, that would be great. Just throwing it out there.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm suggesting. To move it along.
You could always do a Zoom walkthrough.
Okay, that was you, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, if there are people that can't attend, you could do the walkthrough on Zoom for people that aren't able to be there in person.
Right, or maybe like a YouTube live or something. I'm not even sure of the logistics of all of that. So, but yes, I think that's a good idea. All right. So, any other questions at this moment? So, where it stands now, you will present to Community Board 7, and then you will get back to us, and then we will look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully, we'll have more definitive information in the next couple of weeks. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. I don't see any hands. Forgive me if I've missed a hand. Thank you so much, Annie and Matt, for your presentation. That was helpful. Okay. We are going to go back to, I have the pictures now from Miss Hudson. Hold on one second, and I will then share my screen in reference to those pictures. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Yes? Thumbs up? Yes? Can you see the screen? I can't hear anyone. Can you?
I can see. This is Michelle.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can see. Okay, perfect. All right. So, Ms. Hudson, I believe that this is the first picture that you sent. It's large enough for everyone to see? Yes?
Yes, that's the first picture that I sent.
Okay, that's the first. And here is the second picture, and definitely you could see how muddy that is.
And you can see from the steps, as soon as you come down the steps, that is what that you see. And you see the water, the puddles they're on top of that. And that's a big mound. I mean, it's not flat. So people don't walk through there. As you see, it's just tire marks.
It's
from
tire
the
tracks. Yeah, it's mostly tire. It's just tire tracks.
And they're deep. So that's how you know how deep that mud is.
So, Mike, do you see what she's referring to now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So this area, um, a lot of what was happening here was the same thing. So the contractor did seed it. Um, if I recall correctly, they did seed it. But then as soon as so what we did at this site and what we do it often at other sites is when the project is completed and if it's not during planting season, we sometimes open it without the planting being done in order to get it open to the public. So the contractor went back and reseeded and did what they had to do, but there was a lot of unfortunately vehicles drove here. Uh, I think some of it was probably our own Parks Department vehicles. Others were just other vehicles that made their way through the park, which unfortunately happened here quite often and started damaging this lawn. The contractor tried to, redo it a couple times, but they're actually not responsible for fixing anything if it was damaged by vandalism. So this was a really tough site. So Matt, this was actually the area that this is exactly it. This is the area that I'm talking about. Matt was supposed to look into doing something here in-house. As you can see, the bollard there was removed, the one that was there, to allow the vehicles to travel more freely and not have to go onto this because it's evident that it was the tire tracks. And nothing's ever going to grow there if we just keep driving on it, right? So I'm going to talk to Felix and Matt and see what, if anything, can be done here at this area. But it's a little tricky because, we always try to avoid going into parks. But a park like True Lace is very difficult for us to service without driving through because it's so long and so narrow. And unless you go in through, 213th Street or you go in through what is that, 27th, 227th up there? No, like right over 233rd. It's very hard for us to be able to maintain it. So it's one of those parts that unfortunately we have to drive through, and this is what's going to keep happening. So Matt was supposed to look into some solution here. The mulch was put down in order to try to rehab the lawn and also to fill in some of those, tire marks there. It's not looking great though, and I'm going to talk to them about it, see what we can do.
So what I will do is I will forward the pictures to you. Well, this will also be in the YouTube. It'll be on the YouTube channel as well, but I will forward the pictures directly to you as well, Mike, so that you have it as part of your discussion with Matt and Felix.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, Ms. White. Can I add something, please?
Go ahead, Mr. James.
Yeah. Is it Matt who's on or Mike?
No, you're speaking to Mike Ortiz.
Oh, Mike. Mike. I think the problem here is a drainage issue. I go through that park all the time, and it's the water is not being drained properly, and as a result, that area is always wet. It's always swampy. The water is just not being drained properly. When it comes off the hillside, there's nowhere for the water to go. And I've actually reported this same issue while the construction was going on in that park. This has been going on for maybe over 2 years now, and we haven't had a resolution on it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was referring to before with the erosion of the hillside. It's just there's no way the water is coming down from the hill too fast, and it's picking up the loose soil on the hillside, on the slope, and it's just settling at this area because it's the flattest. It's the flat area that and it's expanding. So that's what I was mentioning before. So I'm going to talk to the operations folks, see if there's anything that we can do to help the erosion and to also do something with this particular area because it's very unsightly. I completely agree with you. And I don't ever want, it has to be addressed. So we're going to see what we can do.
Right, because
And
really,
while we're on this, Ms. Bond, this is the same area for our bulletin board, which has not been installed as yet.
right, and part of the problem is that I don't have a contact, and maybe Mr. Ortiz, you can help me out. Who replaced Matt as our contact for Community Board 12?
Felix has.
Felix, but Felix is not here.
I'm happy to help.
Wait, say again?
Felix has, but I'm always more than happy to help.
Okay, what's Felix's last name?
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. Okay. Yes. If you happen to speak to Felix before I do, please tell him that, that please share my contact information. I would like to, have a little sit down with him so that we can understand, what we're looking for. But in reference to this problem, in my opinion, just based on what I've heard and what I'm seeing, that this might really require a retaining wall, and it might need this would be another capital project then.
Honestly, I hope not. Retaining walls are pretty unsightly, and
Right. It's
let's see what we can do. A lot. So sometimes a lot of what we do is we plant up the hillside because the roots and the vegetation on the hillside helps retain a lot of the soil in place. So
okay.
maybe
Okay.
that's a solution. I don't know if that's a feasible one.
Okay.
It's something that we
Hi,
can
I'm
look
doing
into.
good. How are you
Sometimes,
doing?
and sometimes what we do is
Mr.
we
James,
put
please mute yourself. Mr. James, mute yourself.
Sorry,
Sorry, Mike.
and then my phone
Mr.
probably
James,
was
Mr.
on
James,
silent.
mute
So
yourself,
I
please.
didn't hear when you called back.
Hey, Mr. James.
Wait, hold on. I got it. I got it. Go ahead.
Okay. So other things that we do sometimes is we put in like a kind of like logs or strips of a 6x6 wood or something like that, just to stop the speed and act as retention. That's not so that those are things that we sometimes consider. But you're absolutely right. Aside from the vehicles that drive on here, it really is an erosion problem with that slope side. So I'll talk to Matt and Felix again, and
Can I
I will
also,
have Felix check that too.
hi, Mike, can I also say, it's not just that side. On the other side is like that too. So what is the excuse? Because that's not coming from an erosion from that. If you, the first picture that I showed, that she showed, that's on the other side. That also was not completed. What happened was when whoever did that project, they did not complete it correctly. I'm in that park 3-4 times a week, and I've been going there for years. And I saw from the time that they started it, and when they finished, I said, okay, what's going to happen to this part? And they said, oh, they're not finished yet. They'll come back and they'll finish it. That was like 4 years ago. They never finished it. Then when I addressed it again, like I said, they put mulch down, just to do something. I'm telling you, that was a poor job that was done, because let me tell you something. If somebody had done work in my house and I had a pathway done and they left dirt on both sides, I wouldn't have paid them. That, to me, that's not a completed job, because it's not just that side. It's over on the other side also. It's just
But
dirt.
it's on the same side of this plaza, correct?
Excuse me?
Is it on the same side of the plaza, like the same plaza,
Wait,
right?
Let me put
Yeah.
let me put the pictures back up. Hold on one second. Let me share my
me-
screen again, and let me put the pictures back up so that we
Sure,
are
sure.
all very clear on what we're talking about. Okay, so
What was going on here, right?
hold on one second. So this is one side. This is one side, correct, Miss Hudson? Miss Hudson?
Yes, that's the other side. It has nothing to do with that hill that he's talking about. That's the other side. As you can see, all the way from that path going into, it's been dirt. They didn't do anything.
Sure. So, if you take a look there, you see that bollard that's right in the middle of the path.
Right here. This is what you're referring to.
Yep. That bollard didn't allow vehicles to go through, and what happened is that parked vehicles, as well as other vehicles that aren't unauthorized to be there, instead of getting out or, reversing or whatnot or removing that bollard, what they were doing is just driving along that path. A contractor is not, once something is damaged for vandalism, and this is obviously considered vandalism, this is what's going on. So as you can see here, right, you can clearly see where the vehicles are coming through.
Tracks, yeah.
Right through, yep, right through there. So that's what's going on here. But if you notice, it's actually not on the path like it is on the other side of the plaza. On the other side of the plaza, the same thing that's happening here, where the vehicles are cutting through, that same thing is happening on the other side, but the other side, the path is also getting washed out, like all this dirt is going on the path due to the erosion, so it's like extended. So the contractor, they put the proper soil, they added they seeded it, and as I mentioned before, we opened the park before they seeded it because we wanted to turn over portions of the park to the community. But they did go back and seed it. But if there's people constantly driving on it, the contractor does not have to go back because they're saying the work that I'm doing is being destroyed by it, and that's considered vandalism. So they technically, by their contract, don't have to. And I know that this contractor tried a couple of times to repair that, but after a while, it's gave up.
So the
If I
vandalism is
could
being
make,
done
oh,
by the
sorry.
Parks Department, because because let me tell you, like I said, I'm in that park all the time. The motorbikes, they don't go over there because it's too dirty and it's too high. They go all in the path. It's only the Parks Department trucks that go on that dirt area.
I was just gonna add that most of the
Wait,
vehicles that
hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Everyone can't talk at the same time. Hold on 1 second. Ms. Hudson, are you finished with your comments?
Yes.
Okay. Clinton, Mike, you wanted to say something?
I can just jump in quickly. I will say that I almost got hit by a dirt bike right at that. Well, actually, not this, the other side.
On the
They came through like a group of them, and they did not go on the. Yep, right there. While I was looking at this a couple of years ago, because I received a complaint from you, Hudson, I went out there and I got hit. I almost got hit by about 3 dirt bikes. Actually, not dirt bikes, mopeds. Excuse me. So they are going through there as well. And it's not just that. A lot of others are going through there. A couple of our enforcement, agencies, whether parks or NYPD, I'm sure are cutting through here. I haven't seen it myself, but there was no other way to get around if they didn't have the key, so they had to do this. And definitely our own vehicles are doing this as well. I'm not going to sit here and say that it wasn't our own vehicles, because it definitely was as well.
Okay, so Clinton, Mike, you're up next.
I was just gonna say, I haven't put most of what I'm thinking in the chat already. This was supposed to be part of the project when they did the remodeling of the park. So they put one bollard in the middle of the lane, but that's not going to stop anyone from driving around the bollard, as we can see. So there should be bollards around whatever that's supposed to be, grass, mulch, whatever it's supposed to be, so that no one can get through. That one bollard there makes no sense. But like Ivan is saying in the chat, it was part of the project. Erosion was part of the project. Drainage and erosion was part of the project. But it seems as if none of that happened.
Okay. Mr. Ortiz, I'll give you a chance to respond to that in one moment. Mr. James, I see your hand.
Yes, Mrs. Bond. I just wanted to say that as far as like vandalism is concerned with vehicles, I'm in that park very often, and the only vehicles that I generally see in the park are either park department vehicles or NYPD vehicles. I cannot honestly say that I've seen any other private vehicle. I'm not saying they haven't done it, but I haven't seen any while I'm in the park.
Those are truck and car tires going through that mud.
So I think that, and if I could just jump in here and add this, that I think that I don't know if it's really vandalism per se, because when you look at the tire tracks in this, these are not, this is not, this looks like car tracks to me.
Not a dirt bike.
That's not, or maybe, well, to me, these look parallel, so that's why I'm saying car. But maybe it's NYPD vehicles. I'm not sure. And when you look at the other tire tracks, because of the depth of the tracks, also I would say vehicle as well, whether it's park or NYPD, whatever. So I don't know if Mike, maybe from your end, if there's something that can be revisited. Was the erosion taken into consideration as part of the project? Was was that the drainage issue taken up as part of the project? I mean,
Sure.
is the contractor in the right here, or was it something faulty? That I think we have to go back and look what was asked. Wait, hold on one second, please. Just what was asked of the contractor to be done. Did they really do what was supposed to be done, or was it never asked of them? So that is my question.
Sure. And we're going to go back and see what we can do in-house. But again, the contractor did everything that was requested of them as per the contract.
Okay.
And we say vandalism, but if something that a contractor did was damaged by the Parks Department, if it was damaged by not their, so for instance, if this is a perfect example, if they go ahead and they open up the section and the parks vehicles drive over it, that's not on the contractor to maintain. That is, that is the Parks Department did that. The same thing if it wasn't the Parks Department, but another, a private vehicle were to drive on there and do this work after the contractor did that, it's technically not on the contractor anymore because they did their part. As long as if it's part of their secured site and it hasn't been turned over to the Parks Department yet officially with the sign off, that's a different story. But because it was already public, open to the public, and it was damaged by someone that's not the contractor, they're not liable to fix it anymore. And this contractor actually did multiple attempts to fix this area while this was going on. And there was another area down further south where they were coming in and out, where their own vehicles, did some damage, and it wasn't their vehicles, it was their subcontractor. And he went ahead and he fixed it. And as soon as he fixed that area, he went up and he fixed this area again. So the contractor really did what they had to do. And we had a resident engineer there all the time with the contractor who noted all the damage, who noted everything that needed to be repaired. It's just part of our standards to do that. So the drainage on the hillside as well was not part of this, the erosion on the hillside. This was some drainage, but not the erosion. The entire area, the entire pathway was pitched so that it's either crowned or it goes to one side where a drain is, as well as just regular pathway. But that erosion on the hillside was not addressed by this. It was never supposed to be addressed by this contract. We actually, this budget here was very, very tight. This was a federal grant that we tried to get funded, that, the Parks Department was able to get funding for through the help of the Bronx River Alliance, I believe. But the budget was strictly for like asphalt, like for the greenway itself, none of the stuff on the side. Which we always mentioned was very unfortunate because it would have been great to redo a lot of the park, change out the big lights and put, more park friendly lighting, address some of the erosion, do some work along, the other slope going down to the other path. There's a lot to do in Shoelace Park. I know that you're all, very aware that there's a lot to do there, but this project was mainly just asphalt work.
Okay, so the answer to the immediate question, because I see that Ms. Hudson has put a comment in the chat as well, is that the part of the project in terms of erosion and drainage, that what you're saying that was not in the contract, or they did what they were supposed to do.
They did what they were supposed to do.
Okay.
We wouldn't have paid them if they didn't do what they had to do. We wouldn't have closed out the project if they didn't do what they had to do.
So then the subsequent issues now, that you're going to have to look into that, because the contractor, as far as you're concerned, they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
That part of it is clear, so that everyone understands that.
It's
It's
been
not a contractor
documented.
issue at this point.
It's been documented. There were, Parks people on set while they were doing the work, and it was signed off on by Parks. So it did, and there's documentation that says that they did what they had to do. It's just that we can hold the contractor liable for something that happens outside of their construction site.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Boris, you had your hand raised?
So, for sake of clarity, Mike, did we not address drainage and erosion in part of the project? I thought that was the whole point. Now you're saying that it was asphalt. I remember before when we wanted to concentrate on asphalt, it was like, no, this is about drainage and erosion. So for sake of clarity, I'm really trying to put my hand on this, because there are many people here that have been that were in my meetings before, as well as Ms. Bond, that's what was addressed.
Forgive me. I could be confused, and I'll look into it. But the purpose of this was to build out the greenway.
I mean, we picked out, down to plants that weren't even the most.
Sure. Yeah, and we included plants in the project as
Yeah,
well. That's
we picked out plants that supposedly, they weren't the most attractive plants, but we picked out these plants because they suited best for drainage.
Yep, that's correct.
So I mean, at this point, and again, I'm also a resident, and I concur with Ms. Hudson that this project, and I mean, as far as I know, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. This project was never finished or completed. And I adore you. I respect you highly, but I think you're in the wrong business. You should be selling cars, brother, because I don't see it.
Okay, so Mr. Boris, I think that what Mike is saying and has said is that he, as far as he knows, and based on the contract that they have with the contractor, that they fulfilled their end of it. Now, what took place after might require that we get additional funding. That's what I'm hearing Mike say. I don't think that Mike is here to defend the contractor per se. I don't think that that's the stance he's taking. I think that the stance is that what was asked of the contractor has been fulfilled. And so from here, we just need resolution to the problems that we are seeing. Yes?
Thank you, Ms. Bond.
Okay. All right. Ms. Hudson?
Yes, I just wanted to say also that when this park was thought about redoing it, I was part of what they had charrettes, and the community got together and talked about redoing the park. They even gave us plans. They showed us, but again, when they went and they did something completely different, they wouldn't have had that problem if they had done what they were supposed to do. I want you to know, originally that entrance had two paths to get into the park. There was asphalt on both sides of 222nd Street. So you could come in on the left side or the right side and get into the park. When they redid the park, they only made one entrance. So there was an asphalt that went straight down down there. And that asphalt was, they then, I guess, put more grass there. They took out that whole path. And to this day, there's only one way to get in. So everybody has to go to one side of the street to get into the park. And that shouldn't have been there. If they had kept that asphalt lane that went straight into the park, you probably wouldn't have had that erosion. But like I said, a lot of times these landscapers or these architects, they need to talk to the people who use the park so they will know exactly how things to be done, instead of just doing what they want to do and they see these beautiful designs and they don't think about how it's actually used. I think that is a problem.
And I can concur with that. Moving forward, that's something that we can address, most definitely. Ms. Ortiz, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hudson. Something that I have to admit myself, is that when you see something on paper, it's hard to translate into visually what it would look like in person. I saw this on paper, I saw this on the screen, and to me it looked great. I was like, oh yeah, this is fantastic, you know. And there, you know, I thought it was great. I looked at it on paper. We actually had. I know that in years past there was a master planning study where the Bronx River Alliance you know, led that, and they actually took a lot of input from the community. And I know that you were there for this, or for sure. And that master planning study actually helped influence a lot of this design. But we actually went to the community for this design as well before it started, where we took input from the community. I know that you were there for this as well because I was there, and you know, we presented this. You know, we took people's input. Then when we had the schematic design, we came to the community board and we received approval. And I know you know the community board did approve this design. I have to say though that I am the first one to admit that what you see on the screen, it's it's hard to like see it in person. And I'm not a landscape architect or an engineer. But there's a lot of things that when I get to a park after a design, I see and I'm like, well, we should have done that differently, right? Because you know, and a lot of us do look at it, you know, in the Parks Department, we go through a lot of internal reviews before we do present it to the community. You know, we there's a lot of internal reviews just in the Capital Division, and then they present it to, you know, us in the borough. And ultimately, it gets approved at the highest levels of the Parks Department before it goes to the community board. It's a good design. There were just some things that looked great on paper that necessarily didn't translate the best to the practicality of this. We had to drive here. Like there is no other way to meet. Like, can you imagine having somebody walk from 213th Street all the way up to 233rd to maintain this park, or having to go down to the playground? It wasn't very practical. You know, this area was going to get driven on. The erosion of this hillside is something that you know what wasn't part of this project in this area. Yes, we did. As Ivan mentioned before, you know, we did pick drought and other plants that are good for like green infrastructure, right? For a lot of rainwater retention, because that's what we want to do. We want to take as much water out of the combined sewer as much as possible. So, you know, these are a lot of things that we did, but it just didn't translate, you know, to like you know what I mean? It's hard to actually do it. When you see it in person, you're like, oh yeah, this didn't work. It looked great on paper, but it didn't work. And actually, I don't want to get into it during this meeting, but I would love to talk to you about it after, about that path that you were talking about that went from the street down to the park on both sides. Because I just would like to talk to you about that afterwards, because I don't know if that was removed as part of this project or another project. And I just wanted to just chat with you about that, if that's okay with you.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. So I think that if we can come to a consensus just moving forward, that definitely there are things that we know can be improved in this situation, and that we trust that Mr. Ortiz is going to look into this, and he's going to definitely get back to us on how this can be resolved. Not like a patchwork, not like, oh, we're going to just try and do something, but if it does require a capital project, that we are going to definitely look into that and make this happen. Yes? Is that correct, Mr. Ortiz?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So all hearts and minds content on this subject for the moment. Okay. All right. Moving forward. All right. So I think we got the other two people that I wanted here. They're not here. And Felix Rodriguez. Matt, not Matt, Mike, one other favor I'm gonna ask. If you could just text me Felix Rodriguez's contact information so I can reach out to him and
Absolutely.
have just an introduction, so this way he can be part of the discussions that are taking place here, and just everyone can put a face to the name, and that would be great for moving forward. All right. Any other questions or comments at this time? Because we have made our way through the agenda. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none,
Ms.
hearing none.
Bond, Ms. Bond,
Yes, yes,
may I
yes,
make a comment?
yes.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope everyone is well and had a wonderful Easter holiday. Michael, I was over at the new fence that they put at Seton Falls Park,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you inspected that fence yet, but that fence has openings to go behind the fence. Is that for cleaning? And if it is for cleaning, they have locks on those doors that open up. The second thing is they put two benches, but they put the two benches by the bus stop side by side. And they removed four. So you remove four and you give us back two. That's not, you're not giving our people on East 233rd Street any place to sit.
I'll look into the bench because I forgive me, I don't remember how many were supposed to go back. So I'll look into that.
Well,
And
we
back to you.
had four. We had four overlooks, right?
Yeah.
And each one of our overlooks, I'm sorry, it was three overlooks. So we only have two benches. We're missing one. And the two benches were put side by side, which for the life of me, I will never understand that. At least put one, put each bench where the overlook was so that people can still look out into the park, if they want to. But the way the fence is made, I definitely think they did that for cleaning. But
Yes. Yes.
but if you go and see, and the one by the falls, I'm a little bit disappointed about that because now, before you could sit and you could turn your face towards the falls and you could see a wonderful picture of the falls in Seton Falls Park. Now you can't do that at all.
Yeah.
Because I really thought that when they put the fencing up, they would put the fence behind the low fence like they did on Marola Place. But they just, they removed it all and just, you have the chain link fence there, but you definitely, like, at least with the falls areas, you have no view. There's nothing you can see anymore.
Yes.
And
So
then you have no bench.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then you have no bench.
I'm gonna look at the bench situation. For the reason why that gate is there is definitely, yes, for cleaning.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's 100% for cleaning. So in case people throw something's over, it leaves a buffer for us to be able to go in and clean that area.
Okay,
Along
which is understandable. And then they have the padlocks on it, which, that's kind of because anybody can come along and cut off a padlock. But they have four. You have four doors that open for cleaning. But you have the three overlooks that you took benches from, and I really want those benches back on East 233rd because people need those benches because remember you have 4.5 blocks of hill on East 233rd Street. So when you're older, you're walking, you need somewhere to stop and rest before you can get up those hills.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that for you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, the other thing is the reason why we set it forward so much, the fence, is so the whole reason when you said it is and the reason we advocated for this so people can stop dumping over the side and the chemical substances that they've dumped and and the far worse that have been thrown over there. So we set that fence back, if you recall, but the reasoning behind that was so if it's harder to get things down into the woods, which is very, very difficult for us to access. So by leaving that ledge, it creates kind of like a place where, God forbid, if something gets dumped, it falls, doesn't go too far, it doesn't go down to the woods. But I will support that for you.
Okay, well that is a reasonable explanation, because the fence is far back from the sidewalk now.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
because the sidewalks used to be 3 flags, and now the sidewalks are only 2 flags. You know, so I can understand that, but we definitely, you know, you can't take 3 benches from us and give us 2. We need, you know, we need that additional bench, and we need one pulled up and put in another place so people can get up the hill, you know, the hill from Baychester Avenue up until Seton Avenue.
Sure, I'll look into that for you.
All
Okay.
right then.
All
Thank you
right.
very much, Matt. Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Patterson, for bringing that to everyone's attention. Are there any more questions or concerns before we close the meeting out? Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, can I have a motion to close the meeting, please?
I make a motion. This is Michelle, that the Parks meeting be closed for this session. Thank you.
Okay, can we have a second?
Evan for a second.
All right, thank you. The meeting for Parks Committee, Community Board 12 is officially closed at 9:04.
Good evening, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.